is att jag hale, ich halte Aldwina und willkommen till English mit Aldwina. Und this som I will korde, ich spreche bewakum wortum. In this video, I'm going to be talking about weak verbs. There goes that weak terminology again. Again, this is similar to the weak nouns. They were named traditionally because they changed less. I don't happen to like that, so I'm just going to call them D-verbs, because that actually correlates to their appearance. I loved, he bought, we lived. Slovde, hel bochte, we loved them. And I said he bought, but I really meant she bought. So, so that's why I'm going to call them D-verbs. So, characteristics. The past tense endings feature a D or a T. This is just like in modern English. This is in fact why modern English verbs end in a D, because basically we got our regular verb from the weak verb. So, usually these are pretty regular, but there are some irregular ones, which I'm going to get into in another video. In this one I'm just going to focus on the two big subsets, which are the regular ones, class 1 and 2. So, class 1 and 2 on and eon are the most transparent in the language. There were two more, there were classes 3 and 4 before Old English, but they were generally either absorbed into 1 and 2 or they just became irregular. So, class 1, the infinitive ending is on, and oftentimes there's a double consonant before this on. And in many forms, this becomes a single short consonant. So, for example, I'm going to get to an example, which is the word fremman. And the past tense ends in either ede or de, and this depends on the length of the syllable of the stem. So, see the videos on nouns if you don't know what I'm talking about. It's basically the same thing as why we say shipu as the plural of sheep, but shalp as the plural of shalp. So here's a typical example of both the short fremman and the long hyron. So, ich fremme, du fremmest, he hit fremmeth, we fremmeth, ich hyre, du hyrst, he hyrt, we hyrath. And the subjunctive, which is like the I may, is ich fremme, du fremme, hit fremme, we fremmen, ich hyre, du hyre, hit hyre, we hyren. And again, subjunctive is always the same across all the singular forms, just like in all the other verbs. So, this is similar to bel. The unusual forms are thu and hit. As I said, bel will serve as kind of a template for how verbs work. So when I say unusual, I just mean that in fremman we lose one of the M's, in hyron the E is dropped. So, and this is just a note for later, the th ending when it comes next D, T, or S will become another T instead of a th, and this is just for easiness to say. So, this is similar to the note at the bottom where I've said that the de ending changes to te if de is next to a voiceless consonant. So, for example, keepon, which means to keep or observe, the past tense of that is keepte, because keepde would be a little weird, wouldn't it be? It's like we don't say kept, we say kept. So here's the past tense forms of fremman and hyron. The subjunctive past does mean would, so fremmede means would accomplish, hyrde means would hear. So, ich fremmede, du fremmedes, he fremmede, we fremmedon. Ich hyrde, du hyrdest, he hyrde, we hyrdon. Subjunctive, ich fremmede, du fremmede, he fremmede, we fremmeden. Ich hyrde, du hyrde, he hyrde, we hyrden. So here's all the forms that aren't like finite, which basically just means they're not I love, you loved, I was. It's like the being and the done and those forms. So the infinitive is fremman and hyron, as already stated. The present participle, the ing form, is fremmende and hyrende. Notice that we have the double M in fremmende. And the past participles, which is the have done forms, is je fremmed, or just fremmed, and je hyred, or just hyred. And notice that we have the single M again. The singular imperative, which is like, hey you, go, fremme, hyr, So notice that it's just like the third person present, and the plural imperative is identical to the plural present. Fremmoth, hieroth. So here's some practice. This is a verb, which is a class 1D verb, meton, which means to meet. So first thing, and obviously I'm going to give you enough time, I'm not going to give you enough time, so pause the video and draw all three of the tables. You can reference Fremmon and Huron if you need to, and complete the sentences by putting the correct forms in. So yeah, just pause the video now, do that. So the correct forms are Ich mete, du metst, hit met, we betaf. Ich mete, du mete, hit mete, we meten. Ich mete, du metest, hit mete, we meton. Ich mete, du mete, hit mete, we meten. And notice that I'm not saying mette, mettes, mette, metton, mette. I'm saying mete. It has a long vowel followed by a long consonant. It's a bit hard to say, but there is a difference. You can kind of hear the difference between me saying mete, mette, mete. So that's something that you might have to work on. And here's the rest of the forms. Meton, metende, je meted, met, metaf. It's very similar to Huron. The only real difference between Huron and meton is, again, the th becomes a t because the stem is mate. So here's the sentences. Ich mete te on thinem huse efter treum tidum. Ich mete te on thinem huse efter treum tidum. I will meet you at your house after 3 hours. He meton alce ovre on Albundes jarde. They met each other in Edmund's yard. The class 2D verbs are very similar. The infinitive ending is ion. The past tense ending is ode. This O doesn't disappear ever. The thu and hit forms have an A instead of an E, and this also never disappears. And what I noted at the top of the page is that you can also spell it I-A-N instead of I-G-A-N, but I prefer I-G-A-N, so that's what I'm going to try and use in all my videos. So here's a typical example. Macigan, which means to make. Ich macie, du makast, hit makoth, we macioth. Ich macie, du macie, hit macie, we macien. Ich makode, du makodest, hit makode, we makodon. Ich makode, du makode, hit makode, we makoden. Maciende, je makod, maka, macioth. And again, notice singular imperative is just like third person singular with the th cut off, so it's just maka. So there we go. So let's do the same thing as we did for class 1. Just pause the video and draw all three of the tables for louvion, which means to love. Then complete these two sentences, which I will read out at the end. So the correct answers are Ich luvie, tu luvast, hit luvoth, we luvioth. Ich luvie, tu luvie, hit luvie, we luvien. Luvode, tu luvodest, hit luvode, we luvodon. Luvode, tu luvode, hit luvode, we luvoden. Luviende, je luvod, luva, luvioth. And the sentences, thu luvodest he 3 jara. Thu luvodest he 3 jara. You loved her for 3 years. He was suide luviende we. He was a very loving man. Ich thank je that ye saw min even kort. Othon a nixtan timan.